Blessed day to everyone. We are now on the part 3 of our lesson 2 on the introduction to criminology. So we have discussed in the part 2 the personalities behind the biological and partly of the psychological. So this is now the continuation of our psychological going to the sociological determinism. Okay? With yeah. So, in addition to the theory of psychoanalytical, which was developed by Sigmund Freud, we have now Albert Adler, okay, who developed the theory of inferiority complex. We know that people who have this kind of condition may somehow cope with their deficiency by compensating it through some ways. But the problem somehow is the ways or the means that they use in order to compensate their inferiority is by not so good means. That's why they lead towards doing some irregularity or even to the extent of committing a crime just to compensate the inferiority or the complex that they have, the feeling of being inferior. And even in any company, this is usually one of the problems that we have, that somehow people will be mad of you, will get mad of you not because of what you have done for them, but simply because for the reason that they alone knows what it is, and that is because of their inferiority, because they know that they have deficiency, so they want to go further by doing some things. It is not bad if you do it the right way, but the problem somehow is that they come up with doing some illegal or irregularity just to cope with their deficiency. Another personality is Erik Erikson, who focused or study and describe the concept of identity crisis. We know that there is always a big question that every one of us will have to answer, but it takes time for us to be able to answer it accurately, because the way we understand ourselves now may not be the same way after several years. Erik Erikson described the concept of identity crisis as a psychological state in which youth face inner turmoil and uncertainty about life roles. It's like you face a mirror, but you cannot see clearly your face. There is a question mark as to what really is your role and who you really are. And that makes you confused of what to do and what does it take for you to fulfill your ambitions in life. So, the concept of identity crisis is actually a broad, no, concept. There is an issue there of sexuality or gender, like are you he or she? Something like ate or kuya, no? Or a man or girl. Or you have complex personality within yourselves. So you have to identify yourself clearly, because through identity of yourself, you can have a clear, no, directions of what role you should perform in our society. Next one is August Aichhorn. He is well known for his theory that somehow man did not commit a crime only because of social stress. Okay? But there are predisposition existed. What is predisposition? These are things which are already existing in a person's life. Like, for example, he discussed the concept of the so-called latent delinquency. This is the state of mind that he correlates to antisocial act, which is this kind of mental state is very common to teenagers, no? Especially for that age that they are very curious about many things. And according to August Acorn, there are three, no? Three ways by which this youth's personality can be described. One, they want to seek immediate gratification. That's usual, no? Where to young age, to youths, teenager, every time that they like something, they want to have it immediately. They want to grab it immediately. They want to experience it immediately without even knowing the possible consequences of it. Second, considered satisfying their personal needs more important than relating to others. What does it mean? Sa kanila, mas mahalaga, no, na ma-fulfill, ma-satisfy yung kanilang pangangailangan, no? Regardless of whether or not it is in relation to other people's rights or whatever. It means to say that they are more of a selfish one, no? Wherein all they want is to satisfy the needs, the drives, or whatever that they want, because it is for them the more important one. And lastly, that satisfying instinctual urge without considering right or wrong. What does it mean? They don't bother whether the means they use in order to satisfy their instinct or their urge is right or wrong. No? So para bang walang sense of responsibility to other people, na walang konsiderasyon or pakialam sila kung tama o mali yung pamamaraan na kanilang ginamit. Ang mahalaga ay masatisfy nila yung instinctual urge o yung drives or yung needs that they felt that needs to be gratified. Ganon sila. Okay? So next, we go Isaac Ray. So Isaac Ray is known American psychiatrist who became popular for the concept of moral insanity. So we know that when we speak of moral, it is the science of what, rather, it is a topic in the concept of ethics, which is the science of right or wrong. So when we speak of moral insanity, that is the concept that man somehow, okay, has a wrong perception of what is really right and what is really wrong. Meaning there is a mental problem and there is behavioral problem, because some people continue and persist to do something which they believe is right, even though it is not actually that right. But since for them they believe and they have strong conviction that it is right, they don't bother about others. No? They do what they believe is right, even though it is not that really morally right to others. Okay? So those are some of the personality contemporarily in psychological determinism. Now let's go to the sociological determinism. The personality. Okay? By the way, the sociological determinism arises about 19th century. And one of the great personality that you should know is no less than the father of modern sociology, who is Emil Durkheim, who introduces a lot of concept about criminality. One of the things that he is noted for is that he said that crime is as normal part of a society as birth and death, which means for him, crime is inevitable, meaning we cannot really eradicate crimes. All that we can do is to lessen or reduce it. Why? Because it is as normal as life and death, meaning if we all born and everything that and anything and everyone who was born will die, it's like crime that when there is a society there is a crime that will exist, and the reason for that is so many, and one of which he said is because of the differences between the behaviors, okay, and the way people wants to meet their respective needs. Okay. And he also said that crime is part of human nature because it has existed during the periods of both poverty and prosperity. What does it mean? That the commission of a crime is part of a human nature, meaning bahagi ito ng ating pagkatao. Dahil para sa kanya, sa panahon man ng kahirapan o ng kasaganahan, may krimen. At ang krimen ay magaganap. Okay? Whether sa panahon ng kahirapan man o sa panahon ng kaginhawahan. And maybe one of the reasons also according to him is because of our human differences, no? Totoo 'yon. Bawat isa sa atin ay may katangiang iba sa bawat isa. At kaya naman minsan nagkakaroon tayo ng hindi pagkakasundo, hindi pagkakaroon ng iisang layunin o ang hindi pagkakapareho ng ating paniniwala. Another, crime can be useful and sometimes even helpful according to him. Why? Because somehow the existence of crime has an effect. Effect of what? Of changing our society, which is also true. Because sometimes, authorities only realize that they have negligence, that there are things to need to be improved or changed simply because there's something that happens. Right? Yes, whether it is a crime or man-made creation or somehow if it is even if it is a nature creations. Another thing that you have to remember with regard to Emil Durkheim is the concept of anomie. Siya po ang unang nagpakilala ng konsepto ng anomie. Ano po ba yung anomie? Ang anomie is the condition of normlessness na kanyang ipaniliwanag in his book, Division of Social Labor. Ano po ang ibig niyang sabihin? That somehow, because of the large urbanization and social modernization, people were forced to work or to aim for something that is presented by the modern society to the extent that men may isolate or have flowed. That means there can be possibility that norms may be rejected or ignored, and that leads to the so-called normlessness, kawalan ng rules and regulation in the society. Why? Because people reacted differently in the way that society changed. And it also possible that the loss of privacy that is brought by media and modern technology may also lead private moments to go viral, and we experience that now because everybody has cell phone, everyone has access to internet, everyone can be a media or can be a press. But the problem is somehow we make people sensations by what we just see and what we have recorded, but we didn't know the entire story about the life of what happened in that particular situations. Okay, so somehow the public is blaming a person for something that they don't really know what happened. Okay, and that is very viral now in our society. Another well-known personality for sociological determinism is no less than Gabriel Tarde, okay? The forerunner of modern-day learning theories, okay? Gabriel Tarde is known for the concept of the theory of imitation, yeah. Or in other book, it is known as the theory of imitation thus suggestion. Now, why there are two? Because somehow there are two ways by which we adopt or we copy behaviors of other people. One is through conscious copying, that means imitation. And the other one is unconscious copying, which stands for the word suggestion. Now, the concept of suggestion really happens somehow unconsciously because due to frequency and intensity. What do you mean by that? Pag lagi o madalas tayong magkasama at we are so close to each other, somehow we didn't notice that the words that one is uttering is also the words that the other is using. The way one thinks, the way one dressed, the way one confronts situation is somehow being adapted by the other one. Why? Because they are that too close and too frequent to be with each other. That is the reason why suggestion occurs. While imitation is conscious because that's normal. That's somehow, if you want to make improvements in yourself, you need to look for something good from others. You need to look for what is best practiced by others. And by imitation, we can modify ourselves. We can make ourselves a better version of who we are. And according to Gabriel Tarde, there are three patterns by which this imitation happen. One is because individual imitates other in relation to intensity and frequency, which I said a while ago. No? Kapag madalas kayong magkasama at very close kayo sa isa't isa, minsan magkamukha na kayong dalawa. Okay? In your acts, in your words, and even in some other ways. Two, inferior imitates superior. That's very often happening in our society. Siyempre, in organization or in an organization, the superior is looked upon by inferior as somebody who is to be idolized, especially if they are very well and very gentle and in manners, meaning they are very ideal person. So tendency, the inferior or subordinate may copy what is being done by the superiors because they want to become like that the moment they will be the one in the position. And lastly, that when two behaviors pattern clashes, one may take the place of others. What does it mean? That we are all unique individual with different personalities, but when two persons comes together, there is a possibility that is either A will influence B or it is B that will influence A, depending on the level of their kind of personalities. How strong or weak is that personality that they possess? Adolf Catalet, who is also known for the so-called Cartographic School of Criminology, with the assistance of Andre Michael Gary. Okay, so these two personality repudiated the free will doctrine because, as we said, they are the positivists and they are more of sociologists. They uses statistical data. Take note, no? Ang ginamit po nila ay isang statistical data analysis. So they conduct survey, they uses statistical treatment of data in order to explain, okay, the values of some demographic information such as population, gender, religious affiliation, including the social economic status of the people in a certain place, in the city or rural, in order to explain how these factors may have causes or contributed to the level of criminality in the society. He also found a strong influence of age, sex, climatic condition, including population composition and economic status in criminality, which I believe you also agree that there are places where crimes are committed simply because of their economic condition. There are crimes committed because of the nature of the climate that they have, the gender or the age and the sex. Then one of the notable also is the creation of this group of urban sociologists. They call themselves as the Chicago School because basically they came from the University of Chicago. These are a group of urban sociologists, no, through the efforts of Robert Ezra Park, Ernest W. Burgess, and Louis Wirth. There are some only of those who pioneered the development of this Chicago school. They focus on the condition prevailing in the urban area. That's why they call themselves as the urban sociologists. And when we say urban, what is there? It is where modern technology is existing, rapid industrialization is occurring, and there is a fast changing condition where people become so materialistic and so modernized that somehow this also create an opportunity to promote an environment of criminality. Okay? So as influenced by the works of these people, they conceptualize the theory of social disorganization, which pertains to the concept that due to the rapid industrialization, modernization, somehow it leads to the destruction of the mainstream of our society, like the family, okay, the community. There is breakdown okay, in this institution. Why? Because social values are being what? Set aside somehow or being degenerated because people wants to adapt and wants to become in with the modern trends without regarding social values at all. And this leads to the concept of deviant and antisocial behavior. Robert Merton is also one of the personalities that you should recognize because from the theory of Anomie, he made a modifications leading to the concept of string theory, which we all know is really happening somehow. That we have all goals in life, but are we all successful in achieving that goals? Many may succeed, but there are also many who failed. And that means lack of goal leads to another mental state, which is frustration. And frustration has a different effect to different individuals. But as we know, for weak personalities, frustration may lead a person towards a lot of negative feeling, emotion that will lead him to commit irregularity or not right behavior. Okay? Like anger, aggressions, frustration may also lead to the fact that the person may be totally no dismay that he can no longer achieve his goal, that they become vulnerable to what? To some opportunities that will be offered to them, even if it is by the wrong person or in the wrong manner, as long as they will achieve their goal. And this explains the theory of the string. Okay? So there are so many new theories in the sociological, but we will not discuss all of them because what we are discussing is only the contemporary personality. Because the various theories in the modern research will be discussed on a separate subject on the theory of crime causation. But as far as positivism is concerned, these are some of the contemporary. Then, as you know, aside from the classical, neoclassical, positivist, other schools of criminology are created. There is such thing as radical criminology. Those who want immediate changes, even if it is done in a drastic way. There is what we call criminologists. Those who believe that the way women and men are treated differently may also be a factor why criminality is existing. That women should be treated in the same way men are treated, and not that they are just treated as someone who is weak or someone who is just a victim of circumstances. Okay? Albert Cohen also make a contribution about delinquent boys, but this is actually more on the concept of delinquency, which we know is also a stepping stone towards criminality. But many of this theory will be discussed more in your juvenile delinquency. Another is Marxist criminology, no, which is a group of criminology work and focus on economics and sociocultural conditions. So this also one of the schools that promotes the concept of conflict theory. What is that? The theory that arises from the conflict between the rich and the poor, the capitalist and the laborer, and the dominant versus the inferior group of people. And I already made mention about the feminists. And the last is the cultural criminologies, which emphasizes the role of image, style, which we all know is happening, no? That somehow our people are keep on copying, imitating images from other countries that leads towards somehow a conflict of style, conflict of culture, representations, okay? That may also lead to the mediations of construction of crime and crime control. So I hope I was able to give some details of the personalities of the contemporary criminology. And we will go to lesson 3 for our next video. Thank you so much.